This is John Gaudio, and I've got the pleasure of speaking to Marian Olson. I just learned that she is one of my heroes. She has taken it upon herself to go to court in order to require that Mr. Tom Tancredo play by the rules that everyone else is supposed to play by. What can you tell me about this, Marian? Why did you decide to do this, and what do you hope to accomplish by it?
Well, I've been a researcher for a long time, and when I learned that Tancredo was going to go on the ballot as a member of the American Constitution Party, I was wondering how does that work? What are the procedures? And so I read the statutes, and as I read the statutes, I learned that you really need to look at the bylaws of the American Constitution Party in order to be able to put the two together. So first I attempted to obtain a copy of the bylaws from Clyde Harkins, who's the chairman of the American Constitution Party. And I sent him an email, and he emailed me back and said, "Here's my phone number, I'd like to talk to you about this." Of course, he probably wanted to know why I wanted to know. But in the meantime, I got a copy from the Secretary of State's office. But then I thought, well, I'd really like to talk to him about this, but I'd like to talk face to face. So I have a copy of all the registered voters from Jefferson County, so I was going to look him up to find an address so I could say, okay, let's meet at such and such for coffee and talk about this. So I looked, and he wasn't on there. And he wasn't on the registered voter list, and this seemed rather strange to me, but so I called the clerk and recorder's office in Jefferson County, and they looked and said, this is strange, he's been withdrawn for not voting. So he was not a registered voter, and yet he's the chairman of the party, and he signed the designation papers for the party to designate Tom Tancredo as their candidate. And this just stirred my interest even more. And as I read the statutes, I learned that among the requirements of the statutes is that a candidate for a minor party has to have been unaffiliated with a major party for a period of time, and it's currently back to January 1. And so I knew that Tom Tancredo had only changed his registration in July, and this just caused me to look more. And then I sent my information that I discovered from all this to several people. I sent it to the Republican Party. I ended up sending it to Mr. Tancredo himself. I sent it to Mr. Harkins and various people, and nobody, and I sent it to the Secretary of State's office, and nobody was going to do anything about it. And it began to look like they knew, but they still didn't want to do anything about it. So I thought, well, somebody's got to do something, and if nobody's doing it, then I have to do it. So I used my experience with the legal system and the research skills that I have, and I put together a complaint and filed it on the 2nd of September. And since then, it's been picked up by a law firm and added Mr. Harrington to the complaint. And we had a meeting at the Secretary of State's office Thursday, that would be 2 days ago, and they had a speakerphone so that we could talk to two clerk and recorders from 2 counties, one being Douglas and one Larimer, while all of us were listening, and to find that actually it would be very difficult, but if they knew by this coming Tuesday night that they were supposed to change the ballots and take his name off, that it could be done in time to get the ballots mailable to meet the Help America Vote Act requirement of September 18th. So tomorrow, or this coming Monday, we'll have a hearing at 9 o'clock in the morning in the Denver courts to determine whether my analysis of the statute is correct or whether the Secretary of State's analysis is correct.
And what are you hoping that the judge will rule?
Well, my hope is that he will say that the Secretary of State has to follow the statute and that he'll have to remove Mr. Tancredo's name from the ballot. Okay. Also, Pat Miller.
Okay. All right. Well, I wish you much good luck. Any thoughts on how our Republican Party is handling this issue and and thoughts on how Tom Tancredo handled this issue?
Well, the party, as I understand it, and I got an email to this effect, was that they didn't want to spend their limited resources to pursue this, and that they also didn't want to appear like the party was after somebody. As far as Mr. Tancredo is concerned, I felt like if in fact he didn't know about that statute or that piece of the statute and he made a mistake by proceeding, then that can happen. But after he knew, I felt like that an honorable person would have withdrawn themselves because it wasn't in conformance with the law.
Excellent. Thank you very much for what you do. It's a tremendous example of what individuals can do, even though it would appear, and certainly the system tries to make it appear, that the system has the control and not the people.